I'm Gabriela M Refuting the students' claim of online education having more advantages than students who participate in face-to-face education. The speaker supports her claim, stating that 1. Students who take online classes can have a more flexible schedules. 2. Students who take online classes have the same, if not more, variety in programs, courses, and colleges to choose from. And 3. Students who take online classes can learn at their own pace to fit their own learning style. I will begin by refuting each one of her claims. In the speaker's first point, she claims that students have more flexible schedules by taking online classes. She further supports this by stating that students can avoid taking unnecessary courses at an inconvenient time, and it saves time to work full-time, take more classes, or for internships. Although it may seem that online classes are more convenient in time than traditional classes, students do not realize that there is not a big difference between the two. Just like online classes, traditional classes are offered day and night. Therefore, night classes would allow a flexible schedule for a student who finds it inconvenient to go to class during the day. Night classes would allow students studying full-time and who are working to fit education in their schedule, and students studying part-time and are working would be able to pursue other activities such as internships. Just like traditional classes, students taking online classes still must devote time on understanding the material and setting time aside for coursework. In online classes, coursework can sometimes be delivered as modules, meaning each module can contain reading assignments, projects, group assignments, quizzes, discussion boards, and essay assignments. According to mycollegeguide.org, some online classes can be more rigorous than traditional classes. Therefore, it is expected that each student should spend at least 10 hours per week for each online course that a student is taking. Students still devote the same amount of time into an online class as a traditional class. The only real time saved between the two classes would be commuting and finding parking. To say online classes allows a more flexible schedule would be false, because traditional classes also allow a more flexible schedule, and the time devoted on an online class in a traditional class would be the same. The speaker's second claim is students who take online classes have the same, if not more, variety of programs, courses, and colleges to choose from. She supports this claim by stating most online universities offer a diverse range of courses, majors, and that students will be able to find courses they need online. Although it is true that more online universities are adding more majors and courses to their curriculum, it is safe to say that not all majors or courses are suited to be studying online. Some hands-on majors are majors that require constant hands-on experience to be able to master the subject. Therefore, majors such as nursing, medicine, engineering, and culinary arts are only a few examples of majors that require a high demand of face-to-face interactions and experiences. Additionally, if your major requires a high demand of apprenticeships or in-person trainings, an online degree will not be best suited. An online college may not offer a variety of internships or other opportunities as a traditional base education. Ultimately, it's up to the student to decide whether their chosen major will be best taught through an online education or a more traditional education. The speaker's last claim is students who take online classes can learn at their own pace to fit their own learning style. She further supports this by claiming students will control their own progress and will learn at their own pace without the pressure of peers. This claim would not be true, since online education is not for every student. By taking online classes, students must be aware that social interactions with professors and peers will be more limited than traditional classes. Like mentioned before, the speaker states that online classes will allow students to learn without the pressure of peers. Yet, these limited social interactions between peers will also make it harder to meet up for study sessions. It will make it hard to network after class. Therefore, an opportunity for students to learn from their peers will also be lost because of the scarce social interactions found in online classes. Moving on, the speaker also supports her last claim, by stating students will control their own progress. Although online classes may seem like a freedom to some students, others see it differently. It is true that students can control their own progress, but students must also be highly motivated and self-directed. According to studentcafe.com, there are students taking online classes fail more often than traditional students. One of the reasons being that most students often do not take the initiative in completing their assignments, or they just forget because they don't have someone like a professor to remind them that they have an assignment due. Overall, to claim students taking online classes can learn at their own pace to fit learning style can be false because not all students' learning styles are the same. A student who lacks constant social support and finds himself learning from others may not find online classes suitable for their learning style. In conclusion, to claim online education is more effective than traditional methods of education would be incorrect, since both methods offer the same quality level of education and require the same constant devotion of time. In the end, it is up to the student to know whether they will excel in a classroom environment or to face a computer screen. Thank you.
Right, well, the advocate's claim is laid out, and you've got the secondary issues that you're going to be talking about. You are going to follow that structure. That's pretty clear. On the first point on flexibility, you suggest that there aren't a big difference between the classes. If there were, you can have access to classes at night, which suggests that there's less need for the online option. I thought that was a pretty reasonable response. It would be helpful to have a little bit of data on that, but I think it's an assertion that's worth making. The online argument suggests that you still have to do a substantial amount of work online, and I thought that was maybe the most effective part of your argument, the suggestion that online work is going to be less burdensome. You actually have a suggested element from one of the sources that you cited, that they should be devoting 10 hours a week to their classwork online, which would be pretty equivalent to what somebody would be doing for a traditional class. So I think that was perfectly fine. You said the only benefit might be parking or having to worry about commuting, and I can see that you've diminished the argument to some degree in suggesting that those would be less important kinds of issues. That's okay. On the variety issue, I didn't think that your argument was as full here as it could be. I like the idea that there are some kinds of classes that don't lend themselves well to online instruction. I think that you picked out a few examples that you mentioned, but that's all that you've got is some examples. There's no explanation about why they are problematic, what advantage there is in the face-to-face interaction and hands-on sort of thing, why an online format doesn't work or those platforms are incompatible with these kinds of classes. I think that needed a little bit more development. On the question of going on their own pace, I thought that you basically suggested a couple of problems here. One is that you get limited interaction with other students and the instructor, which may create problems for people. That's mostly asserted. I think it's probably true, but some data suggesting that has had a consequence I think would be helpful. The best piece of evidence that you have is the information that says that students have to be motivated because online students fail more frequently than traditional students do. That's a good piece of information. And by the way, that's the one section where I thought you were having a pretty effective presentation. You actually kind of stopped to explain what it is that's happening here, and you looked at us and actually had a moment with human beings as opposed to just reading, which is what mostly is going on in the rest of the speech. And that's, I think, is a little bit of a problem. The notion that people have different learning styles and that online learning may not be compatible with those learning styles, I think that's a good premise to be arguing, but since you don't have any information about online learning styles, how people would know what their learning style is, why those styles are not suitable to some online kinds of courses, I think it gets you less than you really want. All right, thank you.